What's the difference between competencies and capabilities? Or KSAOs, or skills, or expertise, or any of those other words for that matter. When people talk about people at work, they're typically talking about knowledge, or skills, or capabilities, or competencies, or expertise, or experience, or tenure, or any host of other terms. And are all those people really talking about the same thing? Maybe, maybe not. I find that there's really two camps of people. There's a camp of people who don't care. All those words are interchangeable for all the goodies inside of a person that they can apply to the world of work. And then there's the people who actually care a lot about which word you use in which context and what you mean when you use it. I'm probably a little more in the latter camp, but I love when people talk about the goodness that individuals bring to the world of work, so I'm happy no matter what terminology someone uses. Depending on your background, you might use one more than the other. For example, in the academic literature, competencies are used a little bit more commonly than capabilities. So if I'm writing an academic journal article, for example, I'll probably use the word competency. But if I'm working within an organization, I might choose to use a different set of terms based on what's right for my organization and the terminology in use within the organization. If you're an IO psychologist, you might use the term KSAOs, which stands for the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics all put together. If you are an HR practitioner, you've probably mostly seen the word competencies, maybe capabilities as well. If you're a business person, you've probably heard competencies quite a bit, though sometimes more on the organizational competency side, as well as sometimes the term functional maturity has been popped up. On the academic world, I do see the word competencies used the most for those in more of the HR and business write-ups, and then KSAOs for the more psychology write-ups. And if you're just the average employee or average person, you don't use any one of these specifically because who cares? I mean, that's something we can leave to the nerds to debate. So since I'm a nerd, and you might be because you're watching this, let's debate those definitions. Bear with me here and let's get into some definitions. So let's start off with skills. Skills are the ability to do something well. Knowledge are facts, information, and skills acquired by a person. Abilities are the possession of the means or skill to accomplish something. Experience is the expert skill or knowledge in a particular area. Competencies are the ability to do something successfully or efficiently. Capabilities are the extent of someone's abilities or the power or ability to do something. And you can see that in all of these definitions, there was a bit of overlap in the terms. I mean, the definition of knowledge included skills. The definition of competencies included ability. The definition of experience included knowledge and skills. So it's no wonder people use the terms interchangeably, and I think it's okay and fair to do so. What I do like to distinguish, though, is sometimes it does make sense to call them out separately. So sometimes I think that knowledge or skills or abilities can actually be used in a different order or size than, say, something like competencies and capabilities. So, for example, you might have a competence or a capability in the area of communication. And that competence or capability requires a whole host of knowledge and skills and abilities in order to be capable of or competent in communication. And so that's really one way that I do like to distinguish the levels, because if you're, for example, in the effort of trying to help someone learn, you can't just teach them communication. You would need to teach them skills like active listening, like presentation and speaking. You'd need them to understand the knowledge of principles behind it. You'd want them to have the experience and practice of applying it. And that's then how they would both be competent in communication and capable of communicating effectively. And so that is one differentiation that I like to make is when you're a learning professional looking to design, say, a course to increase an area, you may want to distinguish whether or not your end goal is to increase a particular skill, to provide knowledge to somebody, or to be able to make them capable of performing something different in the future. And these are different concepts, and you might want to think about them differently. That being said, if you're not talking to a learning professional and they say they want to learn a new skill, they might mean that they want to learn the whole gamut of a competency or capability. They may want to learn an actual skill. Let them call it whatever they want. At work, I like the word capabilities. I think that the word capabilities is potentially a stronger, more positive word to use in the workplace than, say, a word like competencies. If you look up the definition of competencies, it's very much about having an adequate supply of something to be able to perform. There is nothing wrong with that. That is fantastic. But if you think about how it's used in a sentence, sometimes it's not always the most positive and has more to do with what you currently have today, not what you're necessarily able to do in the future. So I've always been a big fan of the definition for capabilities. Now, capabilities definition includes a bit more future looking of what a person might be able to do because of their inner capacity. So there's one that I tend to use, but capabilities, competencies can really be used interchangeably. You'll see capability models, which is a collection of capabilities, and you'll see competency models, which is a collection of competencies. And if you look at them and compare them, they'll look like they're the same thing. But anyway, you can call them either way. I personally love the notion of being forward-thinking and always encouraging people to reach a bit further and to see what they're capable of, not only prove what they're already competent at. So, all of these words, hopefully the definitions, gave you a little bit of understanding about how intertwined they all are, how they are sometimes considered different, and then how you should really think about what the right choice of wording for your purposes, your environment, and the people that you interact with are, because all of them can be right and good for your particular setting. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe so I get all those good social media points. And I hope that I will see you in the next video. Cheers!